Hi, everybody. Welcome to DPS and to this Women in Technology panel discussion. Over the past few years, the percentage of women in technology has definitely been growing steadily, but with really small increments. As of 2022, women actually hold only 26.7% of all the jobs in technology, and even fewer than 20% are in leadership positions. And especially last year after COVID, there's with this new remote and hybrid working conditions, there's been a lot of challenges that women in technology have been facing. In fact, more than half of the women are feeling burnt out or just unable to continue with work. Some are feeling it too difficult to switch off from work and find a balance with work and life. Many others are feeling that they've the whole environment is non-inclusive now, and also there's so much uncertainty about career progression and so on. So today, that's exactly why we've gathered here in this Women in Technology panel discussion to discuss all these topics and more. I'm Shreya. I'm a product manager in Microsoft in the Azure data team, and I am joined today by 5 of amazing women in technology, Microsoft's eminent women leaders, Alexandra, Evangeline, Nikita, and Valorie. So these they're also going to be sharing a lot of stories of their experience, their thoughts and advice, and addressing few of the top issues, questions, and concerns that the DPS attendees, all of you, have sent across in the last month. So firstly, just a huge thanks to all of you for sending those questions across to us. For those of you who didn't get a chance to do that, we do have an open Q&A at the end of the session. So feel free to put all the questions in the chat window as we go through the entire discussion. So before we jump into the panel discussion, let me take a moment to briefly introduce the speakers, the panelists today. So first we have Alexandra Ciortea, who is a principal TPM manager in Azure core team. She has been working with data and especially Azure data for many years now in various roles in support services, engineering functions, etc. at Microsoft. We'll hear more about each of their journey a little later. We've got Evangeline White, who is a senior product manager in Azure Data Governance team, and she comes with an extremely varied career journey and one that is extremely interesting as well. She started off as a biology student working in fisheries, and she's moved all the way now and is working in technology. We've got Nikita Takru, who is a product manager in the Azure Arc-enabled data services team. She spends a lot of her time and efforts in giving back to the community, getting students interested in STEM, increasing digital literacy for these students, enabling women in technology, and even those who are early in career. And we have Valorie Hampton as well, who is a senior program manager in Azure SQL growth and strategy team. Again, she comes with a very non-traditional career journey. She started off in finance, and now she's actively working in data and analytics. So with that, let's kickstart the discussion. The first is a two-part question for each of you panelists. Let's start probably alphabetically with Alexandra. So the first question, so two-part, right? First question is, what motivated you to get into technology? What's your career journey been so far? And the second one is, what is that one thing, one advice or philosophy, or even a person who helped you to get to where you are today, who shaped you? So two questions. On to you, Alexandra.
Thank you very much, Shreya. Hi, everybody. We are few of the many talented women here at Microsoft, and not even at Microsoft, I'd even say worldwide. So just to address the question in a nutshell, I'm a passionate person. I've been passionate about technical stuff since I was a small kid. I was working on the car engine with my father. Basically, whatever he was doing, I had one extra hand in there. Not always useful, but I think it helped me break and also fix a lot of things. What shaped me? There are many, I think each and every person that I've met in my life has shaped me in a way or the other. I've met role models as well as examples that I didn't want to follow. I think a very important person in my life is my father. He's a researcher for nuclear plants, so he inspired me into the engineering space. And a few of the people that I worked closely with, both from the services as well as from the engineering. There are a few things that drive me. One of them is passion. And the second one, equally important, is core values and honesty and doing the right thing are a priority for me.
Thanks so much, Alexandra. I loved how you said, each and every person that you have met has shaped you in one way or the other, either for the good or bad, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. But before I move on, I do have a fun question for you. So just to break the ice and for all of us in the audience to get to know you better outside of work. So if you knew you could fail, if you know you could not fail, whatsoever, what is the craziest ambition or dream you want to fulfill?
Yeah, that's neurosurgeon for me. I think that's what I wanted to be since I was a kid. I had some small chickens in the countryside where I lived, and they got a few IVs from me. So I wanted to be a doctor. I ended up becoming a computer doctor. We are lucky that we don't have chickens here. They survived the intervention, but that's one of the paths that I would follow. I'm still thinking if maybe when I'm gonna hit 40, maybe I'm just gonna go to medical university and become a neurosurgeon. Who knows?
That's awesome. I'm just really glad to know that they survived. So thanks for sharing that, Alexandra. Moving on to Evangeline. Evangeline, do you want to go next? The same two questions. What motivated you to get into tech, and what is that one thing, one person, or a philosophy that helped shape you?
Yeah, I didn't start out wanting to work in tech. When I was in college, I was convinced that I was going to go get a PhD in biology and do some sort of research in academia, right? And what happened instead is that I took some time off and decided to go work on commercial fishing boats as a fishery observer. So I worked in Alaska, saw all kinds of wildlife, and that sort of opened up my world. I really thought, oh, there's so many things that I could do. What do I really want to do next? And honestly, my career has been a series of just me sort of looking around and just indulging my own curiosity, looking around and saying, okay, what could I do with the skills that I've learned here? What might be interesting to do next? And that's literally what brought me into tech. From there, I worked as a technical writer, and then I started working in data management and data analytics. And that got me into data governance on the industry side of things. And then from there, I became a product manager because I thought it would be really interesting to just do product management. It's data, it's usability, it's business strategy, it's all of the things that sort of entertain my curiosity. So that's how I landed here. There was no grand plan or grand ambition or anything like that. It was just a series of me sort of making the next decision that made sense. The best, I think the way that's really helped me think about my career is to think of my career as more of like, not a sprint or like even a marathon, because that's you in a race against a bunch of other people, but rather an expedition. So an interesting way to sort of explore the world, build a team and community of people around you, and make decisions that really aren't just about like productivity and ambition and being the best you can be, but also balance, right? Making decisions that keep you safe and sort of nurture your soul and all of those things. So that's how I think about my career.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Evangeline. Life is not a race or a marathon. It's an expedition. This is going to stick with me for a long time, and I'm going to quote you in the future. I do have a fun question for you as well. This is one of my favorite ones. What would you do if you were invisible for a day? Invisible with some superhuman powers like, Wonder Woman maybe. So invisible and powerful.
Oh, gosh, that's such a good question. Okay, so I'm really curious about people. Now, I don't care about what people say when I'm not in the room, but I'm really interested to know what people do when no one's watching, right? Like who there's not in a creepy way, but like, what's their true self? Like, what do they do when they're just being goofy and they don't feel like they have to impress anyone? So that's what I would want to do, is like figure out the kind of goofy side of people that they probably don't show at work. So that's so cool. I mean, that's something that I've always been curious about, but I'm really sad that you didn't do anything with your superhuman strength. But thanks so much, Evangeline. Moving on to Nikita. Nikita, same questions to you as well. What got you motivated to get into tech, and what shaped you to be who you are?
Yeah, definitely. So hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining the panel today. Very excited to meet all of you. I think for me, what motivated to get me interested in the technology industry, it really started from a young age. So I actually grew up in the Bay Area. So growing up, I was surrounded by, lots of these tech companies. I saw, lots of, friends, family members in the industry. And I think that was one area which at least initially started by drawing the curiosity of, what is technology? What is this industry? And then how do I break into it? So then when I was actually in high school, I participated in this program called Girls Who Code. Not sure if anyone's familiar with that, but basically in that program, they put you 20 girls in a tech company and you get to learn engineering. You get to learn computer science. You get to talk to people who are in the industry at that company. You have mentorship. So through that program, I realized I definitely know now that I want to pursue a computer science degree in college, and then kind of ended up going that route. Again, had lots of fantastic professors and teachers along the way, and then decided to join Microsoft out of college, and then I've been here since. So I think the journey really starts with curiosity. You have to know what you're interested in if you're interested in the tech industry, and then finding those resources, right? Either people, mentors, coaches, or just opportunities where you can learn and dip your toe in the water and get exposed to what that really is. In terms of a guiding principle, something that I like to say, I would say I was shaped in two ways. One is both my parents, father and mother, both encouraged me to pursue an engineering degree. So very supportive family, which I think it definitely helps growing up to have that from your parents. And then the other, quote that I always like to reference is by Walt Disney. If you can dream it, you can do it. So really, as long as you know where you want to reach, you will get there. It's the steps and making the plan. That's what it's all about. So really, I think the main point is having goals, right? Goals is important, and then knowing how to reach and obtain that. So if you're looking to break into tech or you're already in tech, just know there's a huge network of people who are out there, not only women in tech. Everyone, these days is willing to talk, be supportive. So just don't be hesitant to reach out and to contact people so that you can reach your goals.
Thanks so much, Nikita. I love how you mentioned that set goals for yourself and reach out to people for help. Things are not going to come onto your lap by yourself, but if you're sure of what you want to do next and you make that effort to go out there, network with people and ask for help, it will come to you. So thanks so much for sharing. One fun question for you. I remember you said you started off your career remotely. And so what was your most hilarious or most embarrassing work from home moment?
Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting one because when I started, COVID had hit, so everything was online. I think this is a pretty typical scenario that, you will see with the virtual background. Not only like sometimes my virtual background's not on, sometimes team members aren't on. You'll see people's pets running in the background. So not really embarrassing moment, but I guess it's very interesting, right? Because you would not have pictured the world in that way, right? But these are the times. So now everyone's learning to mute, unmute correctly, have the video on, everything ready to go. I think I've definitely seen the improvement since I've started. Everyone now is an expert in this area.
Yeah, you're so right. I remember even the older generation, my grandparents and other people, anything that they want to do, talk to people, you have to go online and be just knowing how to use tech. So it's really nice to see how they've all transitioned to that level. Thanks so much, Nikita. Valerie, do you want to go next? The same two questions for you as well.
Yes. So hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here. A little bit about myself. So I found myself getting, my career path being completely turned upside down during the recession of 08, 09. And so during that time, I really had to go back and evaluate as I was graduating college. And so the goal, to be perfectly honest with you, was never tech. The goal was to really kind of find out where I fit in. And I found myself in the supply chain aspect of things, which is so interesting because I just knew I'd always be in finance and I'd be in banking. Well, during that time of working in global supply chain, I really learned about data. I learned, analyze data to get parts where they needed to go in the world at the right cost, at the right time, when the customer needed it. So when I think about that, it was just the ability to be able to keep my options open, right? And say, okay, the world has flipped itself upside down, much like it has during COVID. What does that mean for me? And how do I fit in and be willing to try something new? And I think because of that, me keeping my mind open, it led me to tech. And so one of the main philosophies that I like to remind myself is that as I've gone through my career journey, is that I love data. And I really would not care if it was finance data that I worked on here at Microsoft, or if it was supply chain data, or if it was Azure data that I work on now in growth and strategy. I love it. It consumes me. I love everything about it. So for me, data, as long as my philosophy is just to keep my mind open to the idea of knowing what I love and being able to apply that across any of the avenues that are available to me.
That's an interesting different take on it, right? Like if you know what you love, it doesn't matter what particular role you're doing or which place you are in. At the end of the day, you're still doing what you love, and it could be masked into something else, but you're still doing what you love. So thanks so much for sharing that, Valerie, and I'm glad that you're continuing to do what you love, absolutely love. So I think that was one round of introductions that I wanted to do. We'll now jump directly to the questions that we received from the DPS attendees. The first question I'm going to ask to both Alexandra, who has been in the industry for a really long time, and Nikita as well, who is just new. So just to get two different perspectives on this question. But the question was, the question that we received was, post-COVID, with companies calling us back to office, even with work from home or on alternate days, or work from home for 2 days a week. All of this, we do have a lot of hybrid work options, but I'm still finding it difficult to manage work and home. And another comment that we received was, most roles in tech are demanding, and home gets neglected when attending to work. So, and I've personally also seen that there's this stereotype of that the society has put in, where women are being glorified as superwomen. Well, that's great. It actually also puts a lot of pressure on you to balance everything perfectly, to manage everything, work, life, home, and all of that. So the question that was to you, Alexandra, is, can you suggest a few tips that have worked for you so far, or for your team as well, and to understand how to find a balance or set boundaries, so that we can, as much as possible, try to find a balance there?
Thank you very much. Yeah, definitely, I can relate to that, and it is a reality. I think it's everybody who's been in the hybrid work mode, or even remote, has been through this. To make the situation even worse, I actually worked 2 years from Romania in a Redmond team, and that's a 10 hours gap between the two teams. And I also had a team in Shanghai, so that's made it even fun. Now, a few tips and tricks. I would start with setting boundaries and setting limits. There is a day has 24 hours for all of us, and you will never, doesn't matter how much you work. I was sort of in the impression, if I do 16 hours today, then tomorrow I'll have less. No, it just doesn't happen that. I go to bed, and when I wake up, I had other 20 mails with 20 stuffs to do. So for me, it was first of all accepting that I want to go for 8 hours or 9 hours of work per day and stick to that program. Accept the idea that I can shut down my laptop, knowing that I have things to do, but I will do it tomorrow. Another part of the equation was, and maybe people are in this situation, we are all global right now, everywhere. Everything is a global company right now. So another thing that I had to work on is to divide my schedule and take breaks. So if I do a little bit of work in the morning, then I take a break. I work a little bit on IDC time zone or other time zones, and then in the evening I would also set a time frame for those calls. And that's very important, because you try to do as much as possible and adjust to others people's calendar, but it's also important to communicate your availability. So as I was struggling for different time zones, one of the things that I believe works is just saying, hey, I'm available to take calls on let's say US time zone, PST time zone, between 8:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. local time. So let's try to fit into that schedule. Another tip would be Fridays. Friday is a great time to come back to your own time zone and try to reduce the number of meetings to as low as possible and focus on the things that you want to do outside meeting and outside connections. This I built a sort of backlog items. All the PMs are very familiar with backlogs, and nobody loves them, but we can't live without them. So those are the few tricks. And you're right, there's also the superwoman effect. And I just want to spend 10 seconds or 30 seconds on that. I got impacted by it because I was reading everything in the newspaper, watching people online, listening to role models and to other people. And everybody talks about the great and amazing part and how you do everything and you go to work and you have a career and you have a family and stuff like that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you look underneath the water, there's huge amount of effort and nobody does everything alone. There's prioritization and there are things that you can juggle. There will be times when career will take a little bit more. There will be times when family will take a little bit more. And there will be times when you need to take a little bit more for yourself, as Evangeline said earlier today. So it's not a flat line. There is no single recipe for success, and success is defined differently for each and every person. Somebody's success might not be your success, so you have to define your success. That's what I felt, and not fall for the Wonder Woman or Perfect Woman or Superwoman.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alexandra. That is super insightful. I mean, the first thing, like you said, right, finding a boundary, making sure the schedule, managing your time, and prioritizing things. And the other thing that I found really interesting was when you said, sometimes a family might take a priority over work, or work might take priority over the other, but you have to find that you can juggle through that. It's not one or the other, and you have to find people. There are people who are going to help you. There's definitely going to be, you don't have to do it all alone. So I have the same question to you, Nikita, as well, because I know, like I remember you joined during the remote work. So what is your perspective been on this?
Yeah, definitely. So I completely agree with, by the way, everything that Alexandra mentioned right now. There are only 24 hours in a day. So you need to really balance and manage your time and prioritize what is the highest priority task for me today. What is the second priority? And then approach it that way. So I like to generally knock off the hardest things first. So then you can, work your way down. But, that's just my technique. One thing also that I want to point out is, it's not one shoe fits all, right? So everyone's unique. Everyone has their own, working style, their own, schedules, their own meetings. So really it's about finding a balance of what is going to work for you. And this can sometimes mean testing things out, right? You might not find the perfect, remote work, balance right away, but, try one or two things, talk to other team members who are in your area, see what they're doing, because all teams are also very different. And then find what that, one piece is. But if you ask me and you say, what is the one, tip that I can give you, it may not transfer, right? Since everyone has a different team, everyone's day looks very different. But what I'll say is that now in this new world that we're in, really this, hybrid world, with COVID, it's not just going into the office or going in or being online. What you'll notice is teams are distributed today. So you will sometimes be in the office, but you'll still be on your computer with team members online, or vice versa. You may be at home and team members may be in person. So now it's also about, okay, how do you take this change that's happened in the industry and find balance within that? So not just managing your time, but also this new work era. And I think the best, piece of advice that I can, again, give for that is talk to your team members, see what's working for them, because that will help you find the balance for hybrid in your own team.
Thanks so much, Nikita. It's really important to find that balance for you, right? It's not going to be the same for everybody. So thanks for sharing.
Shreya, can I just add one thing to this? I would also just approach this question with curiosity too. So the 3 questions I'm always asking myself are, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Because that gets you in the habit of recognizing that your time is limited. And then 2, especially as you advance in your career, looking around and asking yourself, who can help me with this? Because the more you advance, the more you can actually pass on opportunities to grow to other more junior colleagues. That doesn't mean dumping all the work on them, right? But it does mean actually looking around at your team, right, to see who can help. And then finally, it's really important to continually ask yourself, is this a team and a workplace where I feel my work-life balance can be supported? Because it's not just on you, it's on the work culture and the organization too. And some places are better at this. And if you are constantly asking yourself that, seeing that it's difficult to maintain that work-life balance, maybe it's time to actually go somewhere else.
That was super helpful, Evangeline. Thanks for chiming in. The last part that you said, it's sometimes it's not always on you. It just might not be the right fit for you, and there might be a different organization or a different role which would be perfect for your current work-life balance that you want to maintain. Thanks so much for sharing. The second question was actually, I was trying to ask you as itself, Evangeline. So there was one comment that I've always related to as a early in career, but the question goes like, sometimes during aggressive discussions in meetings, I end up crying. I'm not able to control and I get teary-eyed. So how do I get through situations like this and get my opinions across without being dismissed as being emotional? And I know I've heard that you've written a blog about this as well. So I really wanted to know more about this from you.
Yeah, I'm pretty emotional. So I used to live in constant fear of crying at work, and it didn't happen that often, but it was something that I felt like I just had to control so closely, and I worried about the same thing. I actually wrote a post about this because I had an opportunity years ago I had someone on one time with my VP at the time, and she was a woman, and I started talking about something that I cared a lot about. And then I paused and I said, I'm sorry if I keep talking, I'm going to cry. And she said, oh, I cry at work all the time. That's no big deal. And I was just amazed. I had never heard a leader just say, like, it's okay to get emotional at work. Like, you're a human being. Like, it happens. And if you think about this, not every man at work is unemotional either, right? They get angry and have outbursts. That is also emotional. It's just not crying. So the first thing I would try to internalize is that people have emotions. It's fine. It's just not a big deal. If you cry at work, oh, well, just move on. It's no big deal. The second, I think, is just to kind of come clean. I talked to a coworker about this recently. She said, yeah, I've just told my team that sometimes I'm going to get emotional and cry. And that's just the way I am. Like, you can deal with it. So that's the way another woman I know handles it. And the third piece of advice I have, it's a little inappropriate, but if you're really, really worried about crying in a particular situation, you can squeeze your butt cheeks together. And I promise you, it's actually really hard to cry. So my first 2 tips are about acceptance and connecting with other women, and especially trying to find leaders and mentors who can help you through something like this. And the third is, if you really need a place, like a way to control it, I promise you that actually helps.
This is super, super helpful, Evangeline. I wish someone had told me this back when I started my career. But I completely agree with you. Reach out to people. You can talk to people about it, and that not only helps you, but also helps the others who might be feeling uncomfortable and worried about this. Right? There'll be many of us sitting and wondering and being afraid, just like you said you were. So thanks so much. And the last trick, I'm definitely going to be needing that. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'll move on to the next question that we received from the team, and this is also about another stereotype that's more on women. So there's a need to break stereotypes not only at work, right? There's also a lot of stereotypes that are coming and in home or in the society. So there's this question is to you, Valorie. So there's the question goes like, my salary is more than my husband's salary. His uncomforting about this shows up at times, and I've also seen a lot of women colleagues who are trying to hide their accomplishments in the society, or trying to downplay their salary just to massage men's egos or avoid hurting their spouse's feelings. So how do we strive to break such biases, and what's your perspective about this whole thing?
Well, I have to say that my perspective is a little different because I am a single woman. And so dating, I do recognize that I am in a very fortunate position. And I have so many amazing things that have happened in my career, and I'm excited to talk about them. But there was a point in time where I didn't feel so comfortable talking about those things. And that's when I really had to take a step back and say, how can I be me if I can't talk about the things that I love and the things that I've accomplished? And one of the things that has worked for me personally is just being able to meet others who are as passionate about their own work, whether it be in tech or their own career paths, right? And when you meet someone who's equally passionate about their own work and who's excited, it opens up a level of communication to talk about the things that matter to you most, right? And you don't feel as bad. But when you meet someone or you date someone who's just not that great or not that excited about their own work, that's when I tended to hide my own accomplishment. So my goal has always been to find someone or date someone who's equally as excited about their own work so that I can feel comfortable sharing about mine and we can collaborate amongst each other.
Thank you so much, Valerie. That's a totally different perspective that you shared as well. So thanks for sharing that. Alexandra, Evangeline, any of you want to chime in? Just feel free to let me know. I may not be able to see you directly. So the next question that we have had was, again, this is a question I'd like to ask to Alexandra again. So men are given preference over women for leadership or senior positions, and are also given the first chance for promotions. So it's a two-part question here. First is, what can I do to change this culture in my org? How can I raise awareness about it, so that just to let the company know that it is good to have women in senior leadership positions, and how can I help other women to actually showcase their work better so that they can get to the leadership positions that they deserve?
Women in leadership position, it's one of the areas that we've sort of tried to improve over time, but I would say the rhythm of improvement is steady but slow. And there's a lot that we can do. It's very easy to talk about something when it doesn't happen to you. I've been through this situation, and for my career, I've experienced this at first hand. Now, what can you do to change your organization? It's very difficult sometimes to change everybody's mind. What I try to do, and what I tried to do in the past in order to support this cultural change, or at least put the first brick in this initiative, was first of all to voice my intentions. I applied for that position. I wanted to be given a chance. And if I was not given a chance to go through the interview, because sometimes just from the incubation phase, you are dismissed, I wanted to understand why. I tried to collect feedback. Also, I think that the way I see things is the work that I do. It's every day. It's advocating, not just for me, but all the women in the organization that I was part of or that I am part of. I celebrate success. I call out other women and other people as well. For me, whoever makes a contribution and is passionate about the space, if it's a girl or if it's a boy, I will definitely support them. And I want to contribute to other people's growth. And at the end, even if you do the right things and you do your best, you may end up in a situation where the output is not what you desire. And sometimes it's not about the what, but it's about the where. So that's a point which was surfaced earlier today in the conversation, where you might want to find an organization that would support you through your growth and would give you the opportunity to show your true colors and shine. That can also be an option. Thank you so much.
Alexandra. I think I loved how you said, as much as possible, try to find opportunities to help other women showcase their work, bring up their work, and celebrate their success, so that it's also helping them grow and showcase their work better. And in case, even if you don't get what you may not get always what you deserve, it may be a right time to step back and think, is this the right place for me to be? And also reach out to people and explore that as well. Along the same lines, I had the other question that came was, my female colleagues are trying to pull me down in meetings and talking behind my back and also influencing my manager against me. So again, two-part question. Can you share some tips on how to handle such situations, and how can women become better allies to other women in the organization? Slightly related, and Evangeline, it would be great if you could share your perspective here.
Yeah, so my perspective is that you're going to have to navigate difficult relationships with people throughout your career. And this is really challenging, and it took me a long time to get better at it. I approach this in a few different ways. So one is to actually get really curious about that person. I find curiosity is the antidote to frustration and rage, right? It helps you move from a place of just like, oh, I can't stand what's going on here, to, okay, what do I want to do about this? Two, actually trying to spend more time with that person. So it's completely understandable to want to avoid them as much as possible. You want to do the opposite of that. You want to start leaning into your relationship with that person as much as possible. So that means asking them about what they're working on, asking them about their family if they have one, ask about their hobbies, start communicating some kind of regard for the person. If you don't really like them, asking questions is a great way to actually engage in an authentic way without having to fake it. The other thing that's really helpful to try to do is try to find something, just something that you respect about the person and actually communicate that. And then maybe ask them for advice about stuff. It's very difficult for someone to continue to be your enemy if you approach them with, again, curiosity, interest, and respect. It's just extremely challenging. Now, of course, spend some time doing that. If all of those things don't work, you need to probably have a conversation with your manager, and that conversation should go, okay, here's the thing I'm struggling with. Here are the things that I have tried. What might I be able to do next, right? So your people should be there to help you as well. And of course, finally, if none of those things work, you should always be looking around at your work environment and evaluating whether it's a place that you want to stay. So not all toxic environments can be fixed by you. Like, you have to do your best, but if it can't be fixed, it's always worth looking at other opportunities outside where you are right now.
Thank you so much, Evangeline.
I wanted to add really quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt. Alexandra said something that really resonated with me, and I wanted to add on to that, right? So yes, showcase your work, state your intention, but the third thing is also look for sponsorship, right? Look for someone who can help you or name drop you in a room when those conversations are being had about promotions, right? It is not enough to just state your intention. You could go around telling everybody in the world that you want to be the next Oprah, right? None of that is going to matter if you do not showcase your work. If you do not have someone who can put your name in the hat and say, hey, we're spearheading this new team. We're doing something different. We need someone to do this. Do you know anyone? By having that sponsor, they can help get you to the next level. And I don't mean like a peer. I mean someone who maybe sits at a higher position than you. Someone who has the ability to make those decisions or influence those decisions. So I want to make sure that we really elaborate on that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Valerie. That's so true, and it's definitely that is the one thing that has definitely helped me in my career so far is to first definitely like showcase your work. That is super important, but also find a sponsor who can help you and who can also. It's not just about mentorship, right? But also about getting you that visibility and helping you out that way. So thanks so much for sharing that, Valerie. And Evangeline, yeah, to the points that you shared earlier about other women bringing you down, right? I think so, it reminds me of when someone told me that someone is angry or doing something at you, not just out of a whim. There's a reason behind that. So getting to know them always helps you. And once you get to know someone, there's always a bond that's formed, and it's going to get resolved eventually. But sometimes if it's too much, seek help from a manager. Go out there and seek help. Don't be too shy thinking that maybe it's just in my head. Sometimes you do need help, and in the worst case you do need to get out of if it's too toxic for an environment, you should definitely make a move to get out. So thanks so much, Evangeline. But I think that's again coming back to what Valerie said about showcasing your work and reaching asking for sponsorship. There was another question which said, I get mundane work at office and I get no opportunities to apply my skills. So this question is to you, Nikita, as to how do I voice out my skills, my interests, my passions, and get work assigned according to that without just being passed over as too demanding or you're being too aggressive. How do I actually voice it out in the perfect way to get help? And what are the other steps that I can take to find opportunities that are suitable for my areas of expertise?
Yeah, of course. That's a great question. So one thing which I'll say is when you join a team, you're given projects, right? They have something ready for you, and that may be your interest. That might not be your interest. Part of the process of joining a team is finding out what excites you. When you figure out what excites you, the next step is to communicate that. So oftentimes what you can do, and I'll tell you this because I've done it from personal experiences, you want to integrate some other projects that you're also interested into your existing work to gain those skills, to get that experience. Once you know what that is, what you do is you talk to your manager, you express your interest. Truth be told, nobody can read your mind. So it's all about clearly communicating what you want. So step one, what do you want? Step two, who's going to help you get there? Who can I communicate this to? Start with your manager. You can even talk to your skip level and express interest. So skip is your manager's manager. Say, hi, I'm really interested in learning more about, this portion of SQL. I like the existing work I'm doing, but can I take on additional work? So essentially what you're doing is you're taking on extra tasks, but they're helping you get the skills that you need. And over time, if you find this is really my passion, then of course, naturally it can be adjusted where that's your priority. So I would say the key really comes down to when you can't expect someone will always give you opportunities. You have to create your own opportunities. And the way you create your own opportunities is to know, one, what do you want? What are you going after? And two is finding those, as Valerie was mentioning, those allies, those mentors, those people in the room who can help you get there and give you those projects and, take that leap of faith and give you that opportunity. So the main piece is, it's not, by the way, is being viewed as, you're being aggressive. It's good to take charge of your career and know that, this is the next step for me in learning. So never be afraid to voice your, interest. It's a very positive sign. It shows you're an eager employee willing to learn. So I'm sure it will not be taken in any other way.
Yeah, and if I can just kind of jump in and build on what Nikita said and also what Valerie said, as you advance in your career, you should be looking around and asking questions of the more junior folks on your team. You don't have to wait to be a people manager or anything like that. You can take the intern out to coffee. You can take the new junior PM out for lunch and say, so what are you working on? Are you enjoying yourself? What are you interested in? And see where you might be able to help be a sponsor for people and get them new opportunities, because that's how you actually build, the power and prestige of women in the workplace, is being a partner to everyone else in your community too.
Thanks. And it's also important, we all have roles, and these roles come with predefined set of responsibility, but it's not just the role shaping you, it's how you shape the role and what you bring on top of those predefined responsibility and how you expand the borders of your role, because you may be setting the snapshot for the next person who goes into that role. So sometimes I was just, oh, well, you have to do this because that's how I envision the role. But I also try myself to put my fingerprint and my own personal touch on the role that I am filling.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alexandra. I think the bottom line is what I want to take away is whatever role you're doing, and if you have something that you want to do, even in the current role, you can find a way to do that, to bring in that additional responsibility, and then just seek help from people, showcase that additional work that you've done, make a move, or otherwise just mold your own role into the way that is, that fits with your skills and your interests and passion. And so thanks so much, Alexandra, Evangeline, and Nikita for sharing your thoughts here. The other question, again, continuation of this was, I want to quit my job and be an entrepreneur. I want to know how to get started. I've not made any headway whatsoever. And there was a follow-up question there as to how do, just in general, how do I set up time for my learning, my growth? Because I'm already balancing work and life. It's already taxing. Now, how do I find time to focus on picking up new skills or approaching a whole new career? So Nikita, Valorie, do you want to share your thoughts?
I think as far as picking up a new skill, I think most people think that you have to jump fully, do a deep dive into this, and you got to go head first to learn something new. But it really starts with setting out just 30 minutes a day of just, this is the one thing I'm going to do, right? 30 minutes each day and say, hey, I want to read for 30 minutes uninterrupted and make that your thing. If you want to learn something new, there's so many ways, so many different camps out there for learning something new. There's TikTok, there's Google, and maybe say, I'm just going to look at 2 videos a day on how to do this thing, right? So I think that small goals can really, really help you kind of chip away at the iceberg of what may seem like this moment, this huge, gigantic task. So I will say, just take small time, just a little bit, not too much, and focus on it every day.
Thank you so much, Valerie. That's really helpful. I remember when I joined Microsoft, the first thing one of my mentors told me was, this is very unique and strange to hear, but he said, I eat 3 frogs a day. And he said, it's just those 3 things that I do for myself, and I focus on just that. And I do that every day, just so that I learn. And I remember he used to also do these, when he's traveling in the cab, he would listen to LinkedIn Learning or something like that, just to spend that little bit of time. His work and life is already taxing, but wherever there's a little bit of time, just focus on what you want to do and get there. And I think I also wanted to hear from Alexandra, because I know that regarding the entrepreneur side of things, I know that the team that you're currently setting up is like a startup. So how has it been to your journey to be an entrepreneur? What are the skills that you wanted to had to get started there?
Oh, definitely, Shreya. So I'm starting a small product group. Actually, it's a big product group here locally, and it was more challenging than I thought. So I first of all, I had a plan. Like, what are the things? For me, when I joined the role, I had a free 30 days plan and then a 60-90 days plan. I didn't go further than this. I had to first establish my goals. What do I need to do, from the facilities setup to the hiring process, define processes. Some processes were not defined, define chapters for my team. So I was a bit lucky because it is a startup within a big organization. But there are other people who are looking at starting their own startups, their own companies. And I know the question is, I want to quit my job to start my own company. Sometimes you can do a little bit of work in parallel. So sometimes in your work environment, you can find partners for your ideas. You can get suggestions for the business that you are trying to develop. we had a few, and I've had a few initiatives, maybe in the start. I wasn't brave enough to implement them, to have startups in the data space. And most of these suggestions and the best value I got from my colleagues. Then once you know what you want to do and what is the value, and you know how, if you want to partner with somebody or you want to go alone, the next step is how do I get things done. And here, of course, I think the main challenge for the startup is how do I get funding. And there are tons of stuff. You can go to friends and family. There are loans that you can do. There are incubators and accelerators for startups. If you just search them online, you'll definitely find a lot of program, crowdfunding or other sites that would allow you to get the minimum that you would need for you to start an idea and see if it's sort of have a minimum viable product or a proof of, not even MVP, just a proof of concept that you can launch on the market. Now it's a market of fail fast. So you want to validate your theories. There's also, it helps if you have a little bit of finances set aside that would help you through that period, because at the end of the day, bills still need to be paid, even if you work for somebody or you start your own company. So that's gonna reduce a little bit the pressure on you. Those were some of the things that I was looking at in the past.
Thanks so much, Alexandra. Just, I think getting started while you are in the current role, seeking partnerships, getting feedback on your product, maybe do an MVP or POC and just, seek help and feedback within your own team. That would be a good way to start, and then probably look at funding and then take a step forward and maybe quitting a job and starting your own business. So thanks for sharing that in detail. We are 10 minutes away. I just want to do a quick check from the audience. Are there any questions or any issues or topics that you want to bring up? Please do share across in the chat window. We'll wait for a couple of minutes and meanwhile continue with other questions. But yeah, please feel free to drop your questions on the chat window. Meanwhile, the other question that was there was about returning to corporate world after a break, a career break, a sabbatical, a maternity break. It can be really challenging, right? So first, how do I prepare myself to get back to office atmosphere? How do I bring back the confidence that is required, and how do I actually make that shift? That was one of the questions. Evangeline, do you want to take it? I know you've gone through this yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm a mom, so I've returned to work from taking maternity leave, and that can be, especially if you're a first-time mom, that can be an incredibly anxiety-inducing and overwhelming space to be in. So step one is, kind of figuring out how you're going to move from a place of being really, really anxious to feeling like or have a plan for what to do. And so it's important to actually sit down and kind of take stock of the challenges that you're going to face. And by that, I mean, literally just make a list of what's going to be difficult for you and sit with that list. The other thing I think is really important is to actually spend some time kind of feeling your feelings about it. Don't just be like, I'm completely overwhelmed and frozen. Just be like, I'm a little overwhelmed right now and a bit afraid. And that's okay, right? That's completely normal. There are all kinds of people who are dealing with exactly this challenge right now. As you build your list, think about how you're going to tackle each one of those challenges. And that includes asking others for help. So that means help from your partner, right? Your spouse or partner, parental partner, if you have one. That's huge. If you're returning to work after a sabbatical for other reasons, try to find a community of people who have dealt with the same thing. So if you were on medical leave, find other people maybe in that community who are returning to work. If you were on maternity leave, find other new parents at work. If you were somebody who's switching careers, try to find a community of people who've made that transition. That's huge, just having people who can empathize with your experience. And again, as you're thinking about who's going to help you, that means reaching out to your team members. It also means being transparent and honest with your manager. Say, okay, I want to talk to you about what I'm dealing with right now and how we're going to partner to overcome these challenges, because it's really important for me to do a good job. So those are all of the things that have helped me. The other thing that I got really, really good at after becoming a mom was not only making a to-do list, but actually scheduling the time for each thing, because then I would actually look at my calendar and see if things literally fit or not. And if they didn't fit, it was like, okay, I need to find somebody to either delegate to or ask for help with. So that's just really, really huge. Being very disciplined and systematic about your time management is important as well.
Thanks so much, Evangeline. I think getting the right help from anybody, a partner or anyone that's around you, finding community of people that are going through the same thing as you is definitely going to help. And at least many companies do have a lot of options for women returning to work. Like in Microsoft, we've got Springboard, which for anyone who has taken a break, you can do an internship program for a couple of months and join Microsoft. So there's definitely a lot of help out there. It's about not feeling overwhelmed, taking a step back, listing down what are the challenges that you face, and then taking them out one by one. So thanks for sharing that. And particularly like the last one, which you shared, the work-life balance, where you said, just put all your tasks in the scheduler and get that really helps out. And I did see a comment from the audience as well, from Marisa, who said, for work-life balance, what I do is I try to only accept meetings during my working hours. And if they are outside of working hours, I just ask for it to be moved around. So these kind of little things are definitely going to help for sure. I think we are just 4 minutes away from the closing. So I wanted to get some final comments out of you all before we close. What would be your one line advice to the audience? Just one line, which I'm hoping will be super catchy because I already got that from you, Evangeline. So one line advice for women in technology to succeed. And this time we'll go in the reverse alphabetical order. So Valerie, over to you.
Do it afraid. Do it afraid. I think that there is a lot that tech can be overwhelming. Everybody wants to be in it. And a lot of us may feel like we have imposter syndrome as we're looking at these jobs. If you think you can, you can. Do it afraid.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Valerie. That's super catchy. Nikita?
Yeah, mine would be, never give up. See, here's the thing, you need to know what you want and you need to go after it. That's really the key here. There are going to be hurdles and roadblocks along the way. Everyone faces them at some point, along the journey. But if you keep on pushing, you keep on persevering, you're determined, you will reach that end destination. So always fight on and you'll get there.
Thank you so much. Never give up. Thank you so much, Nikita. Evangeline?
I think we've got mine, right? Your career is not a race, it's an expedition. So again, an expedition is all about building a team and being curious, and also making sure that you are constantly attending to your health and being realistic about when you're ready to face different challenges. It's about gathering information and having a plan for like a long-term plan that sustains you as you're managing your career. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Alexandra?
Of course, I would say follow your dreams and passions outside work and at work. You really got this. If you trust yourself, you are already where you were supposed to be.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alexandra, Nikita, Valerie, Evangeline, all of you. This is at least super impactful and catchy lines of advice. I'm going to definitely remember them for a long, long time. And thank you for this super engaging and inspiring conversation as well. Also, folks, that brings us to the end of this panel discussion. Thank you so much for attending. I hope you were able to take some meaningful advice and points from this discussion that will help you succeed in your career. But before I close out, I did want to give a huge shout out and thanks to DPS, to Data Platform Geeks, for organizing this panel every year. In fact, I've been part of this panel every year, and I've always taken away something huge from this panel. This just gives a good opportunity for all of us women to come together and learn from each other. But thanks all. Hope you have a wonderful day ahead. See you.